you gotta think about something too. Whoever shot this bird, this is probably 9mm or bigger. They were level with the bird, so they were shooting like this in a neighborhood.
Wow.
And this bullet, 9mm, went through this bird and straight on somewhere else, where who knows who would have been. Like, it could have gone in someone's house, and there anywhere.
So they could have ended up injuring or killing somebody by shooting this pigeon.
Exactly. Yeah, because usually when I get them in, they're shot like from above, so they're like someone's up on a balcony shooting towards the ground. And when they're doing it that way, at least if the bullet, when it goes through, it goes into the ground. Mm-hmm. Whoever did this was not doing that.
Jesus. So this guy's very lucky to be alive.
This guy's very lucky to be alive, and the people in that neighborhood need to find who's doing that, because it's likely that if he continues doing this, someone's going to get hurt eventually. Because birds don't stop bullets, especially this size bullet. Yeah. This will go through right through someone's wall and kill somebody.
Well, it's illegal to be shooting a gun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Anyway.
Yeah. If I were living in the neighborhood where this happened, this would be a big problem, because...
And this guy's paralyzed now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you think he's going to recover? Will he be able to walk again?
So the thing is, because it went through the vertebrae, it's likely the spinal cord itself was pretty badly damaged. If it had fractured the vertebrae, but the spinal cord was like minimally damaged, but the paralysis is often just due to inflammation. Like for those guys, they both had fractured vertebrae and one had a separated vertebrae, but the spinal cord itself was mostly intact. It was just crushed by the inflammation because of the injury. So once the injury healed and the inflammation went down, they regained function.
Okay.
In this case, if it actually went through the spinal cord itself, it's not likely that he'll be able to, or she, whether, I don't know if it's male or female, but...
I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
Look at this.
I mean, it went, like, here's the hips. This is the other thing I'm concerned about, too. The kidneys are right here.
Oh.
And the blood supply for the kidneys is actually the same blood supply that it goes... The veins, the main arteries that supply the legs, go directly through the kidneys into the legs, right at the hip right here. So where these holes are is sitting directly on top of both kidneys and the main arteries for the legs.
Wow.
So if there was any damage done to those kidneys, this bird probably won't even survive another week.
Do you know, when will you know?
Usually it's around a week and a half, because the kidneys, when they stop working properly, even if they're damaged, like the initial trauma, they might still function for a little while, but then eventually the inflammation and the repair process will completely shut them down. So it might take a few days for that to happen, and then once that does happen, nothing is being filtered from the blood. And eventually they end up having uremia, where all the urates and everything, all the toxins that would normally be filtered out by the kidneys build up in the bloodstream, and they end up dying just from,
And how long have you had this bird now?
This is day 3.
Day 3?
I think, since he arrived, or she. And
do you know where's the entrance and exit?
Yeah, this is...
Okay, buddy.
This one is the entry, and usually the entry is the easiest to find because the feathers go in.
Okay.
And then the exit is much harder because the feathers actually come out. So in the exit wound, what you see, before this was all cleaned off, it looked exactly like anywhere else with feathers coming out of the skin, because they clot the blood, so there's no blood, and you just see feathers coming out, but you don't see the hole. And actually how I find the exit is I find the entry, and then I actually just follow the path when I take out the feathers that are stitched through. Whichever direction those feathers are going kind of points the way to where the exit would be.
Okay.
And then I have to still do a little bit of searching. I just move away all the feathers until I find, something that doesn't... The feathers that will be a little bit shorter than they should be, because they're going through instead of actually the root. Or I'll notice like a clump of feathers together that are like compacted more than the others. And in these areas, they're really, like, see how dense they are?
Yeah.
they're already so compacted together. It's really difficult. Like this, it took me a good 30-40 minutes to find both the entry and exit on this bird. And when he arrived, or she arrived, there was all the feathers were completely covering this. There's no blood, nothing. There's
Really?
I mean, the only way I even knew there was a problem with the spinal cord, besides from the inability to use the legs, was that I could feel right here, the vertebrae are actually, you can feel the fracture and the separation right here. You touch it, see that?
Oh,
Feel that ridge?
Yeah.
That's the bullet passed right through, and there was actually pieces of the vertebrae that were shattered off of as the bullet passed through that were coming out of the exit wound.
Really?
So I removed 3 splinters of vertebrae from here. They came out with the feathers that were in there.
Oh, wow.
So I know that it went directly through, which is why the legs are completely...
And also, you have to stimulate the bird to go to the bathroom now. You
Right.
can't go to the bathroom on its own.
Because everything, all of the muscles from here down he has absolutely no control over, and that includes all of the muscles for, elimination and everything else. And they can even have like digestive problems, and this is the same for humans too. My mom was actually paralyzed in the car accident that I was in, so I went through all this with her.
Wow.
So I kind of recognize like the symptoms and the problems associated with it, and unfortunately a lot of times those don't seem that bad at first. So he might be doing well right now, but it's only a matter of time we'll find out whether or not the damage to the spinal cord itself is the real problem, or if it's inflammation. So that's basically what we're waiting to find out, and we'll know that within the next couple of weeks.
He seems like a fighter, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Like he doesn't plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
So that means he was shot, and for what, about a week, he was just using his wings to get around
Yeah,
paralyzed?
he can actually fly.
He just can't walk.
He was weak when he came in, so he wasn't really flying at all. But after I fed him a couple times, the next morning I had set him on a towel here, and he actually flew up, and I had to catch him because I was afraid he was gonna flop on the floor. But I was not expecting that at all.
That's amazing.
But yeah, his wings are incredibly strong.
And are you putting any type of antibiotic in the bullet wounds?
I don't put anything inside of it because it's going into the vertebrae.
Okay.
Anything that we put inside there could end up in the cerebrospinal fluid, which you want to avoid.
Okay.
So we're basically just keeping the outside very clean. All of the debris has been removed from the inside. It's okay, sweetie.
So he can never be released. He would have to be a pet now.
Yeah, definitely. So if he does recover, let's say the spinal cord is not fully severed, and he's able to recover function of the legs, then he would be a similar situation to these two. It would probably be about a 3-month rehab before he would regain normal use of the legs.
Okay.
So these two, one has been here about 2.5 months, and he's actually doing really well. He walks pretty well, but doesn't have the balance. The legs are really, really strong. He's still working on not falling forward or falling to the side part.
Okay.
And the other one has been here a little bit less, I'd say probably closer to a month. And that one doesn't quite have the strength yet. The nerve function has returned, but the muscles are still regaining the strength now, because when they're paralyzed for that long, even a week.
And does this guy have feeling from the waist down, I guess?
No.
So he can't feel anything either?
No. So you test for that, the feet here. So if you're moving or tickling, so I find that actually veterinarians will often do a poke test where they'll take a little tiny needle and they'll poke and see if the bird has any response, like if they twitch or flinch. But I found out that tickling works better.
Oh, okay.
Because on one of my birds that we thought was completely paralyzed, because the poke test, she had no response. And then I was cleaning her feet one day, and I kind of like this, and it tickled it, and she started jerking her foot back.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, so she can move it. And then I was like amazed. So I tried the poke test again just to see if it was like, but there was no response. And I did the tickling again, and she did the same thing, jerked the feet back. So I was like, okay, this works better. But this one, I've tried both, and
Nothing.
I don't get any response.